Hello, you are listening to NPE Stories. This is a podcast where NPEs can share their story. I'm your host, Lily. NPE is a term that stands for Not Parent Expected, or Non-Paternity Event. This means that one or more of our parents are not who we believe them to be. NPE Stories is a podcast where NPEs can share their story of what their original family was like, how they found out they were an NPE, and what their journey has been like since the day they found out. Welcome to episode 3, where today we will hear from Camille. Hi, Camille.
Hi.
I met you last weekend at our local NPE meet and greet, and you had a fascinating story. So thank you so much for being willing to talk with me more today.
You're welcome.
So if you don't mind, can you start from the beginning and tell me what your childhood was like, what your family was like growing up?
Yes, I grew up as the youngest in a family of 4 children, intact family with parents included. My father was 100% from the Swedish community in Chicago, so the genetics that he brought to the table were understood all along to be Swedish. My mother was old American from Texas, and so as we came along, she pursued our genealogy very actively in order to draw out the tree and complete the story for us so that we would know our origins. So fast forward to 2010 when Ancestry first became a thing, and I went online, joined and built out our family tree in the cyberspace, and then printed it for everybody and closed my account. And then in 2017, when the DNA testing became popular, it only follows, I'm sure you can see, for me to go ahead and submit my DNA so that I could prove what we all understood to be our family DNA story. So I did that, and the results came back with no Swedish at all in my DNA. And I simply looked at that as if perhaps the Swedish people that we were from, that half of my family was from, would simply be more recently from Western Europe than all Swedish. And so I just didn't even think anything about it. I shared it with my family in a family texting stream that we can maintain. And the jokes began about how we were British. And then there was silence on the texting stream. And I didn't give it any more thought myself. A few days later, I received a phone call from my mother where she literally said on the phone, don't talk to your uncle, my dad's only living relative at that time. And my dad was, by the way, deceased at this time, the dad that raised me. And she said, don't share that with him because that is not going to be the same as his DNA. He is actually Swedish, 100% Swedish. And I said, what are you saying to me? And she said to me that there was sin in her life. And at that point in the conversation, my mind just needed to escape the conversation so that I could think about what in the world she was talking about. I got off the phone with her, called my children, my sister. We had fast and furious conversations the rest of that day. And the next morning I called her again and proceeded to finally ask her what she meant. I ignorantly and innocently actually hoped that she would tell me that I didn't understand what she said correctly. Instead, she gave me a weird, I guess you would say, sort of a mental dump of 58 years of a secret that she's been holding. And so the information that came out was random. Some of it was information you wouldn't normally tell, probably, but she just blurted out information for 30 minutes. And then I, again, just couldn't cope with the information anymore, got off the phone. That's literally the last phone conversation I've had with my mother. So that was 2017. We all did fly down and meet with her within a few weeks. But in the meantime, bear in mind that what she told me was that I might not be the only one of the 4 children in the family that had this DNA. And so I will back up here and just tell you that all through our growing up years, the oldest 2 are dark like our dad, and the youngest 2 are light like our mom, light complected. And the personalities were so distinctly different, the way we interacted with mom and dad, everything, that we jokingly, all of my life, have talked about how there were two families. So Jack, my brother that's next to me in line and also fair, sent off his DNA sample as quickly as he could. So we met with our mother within about 6 weeks of this coming out, and a few days after we had met with her, his results came in, and he is my only 100% sibling. So that would put us at a point where we've seen my mother. She was angry that I brought this out, and that is the last time until this year, just a few weeks ago, that I have seen her. We just text, and I send her gifts and things, but it's very strained, I would say.
Has your mother shown remorse at all towards you?
It's an excellent question. I feel like the only thing that I can say, I'm trying to be objective in this, but I would say that she's very desperate to be forgiven, but wants for the status quo to not be interrupted more than anything. And she's a woman who has had all of the respect of her family and has been even living atop a pedestal, I would say, and really wants that to be maintained.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. That's very important, I'm sure, to her. I'm sorry for you. Wow. And you are the first NPE I've talked to that actually has a 100% full sibling. So you and your younger brother are full siblings. So how did this happen? Do you mind telling me more?
No, I don't mind. In the 50s, my parents met and married in Caracas, Venezuela, came back to the States, already pregnant with my sister, moved right to California. They had my brother Art next. All the while, they were members of a church in a place in California, and they were friendly with the pastor and his wife, and apparently very friendly between my mother and the pastor, because he is my biological father, as it turns out. And so they had an affair that lasted at least 4 years, from best information. And as my parents moved because of work to Colorado when I was in utero, he actually came to Colorado at least once after I was born and saw my mother again and saw me. And apparently they knew in almost without any doubt terms that Jack and I, excuse me for using the name, but my brother and I were 100% theirs, the youngest two.
So your family's pastor, your biological father, he knew about you. He knew that you and your younger brother were his.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. And they had a long-standing affair, you said at least a few years?
Yes, 4 years minimum.
Did your your birth certificate father, did your birth certificate dad, your dad who raised you, did he know about this?
Nope.
And how about your siblings you were raised with, the ones that you had believed to be full siblings, but are now in fact your half siblings?
No one knew. I believe 100% that my mother managed to keep this secret entirely to herself, and that is stunning. And I would say that to anyone listening, that probably the most difficult part of this information coming out is when you know that someone has kept a secret like that. You're not just impressed that they're strong-willed or that they can be that discreet, but you begin to look at what it takes to keep a secret like that. And it's never just one secret. There have to be many lies upon lies upon lies to maintain that secret.
Yes, really, there does. And you think the first time this came out was when you had when she told you there was sin in her life, right?
Yes.
Those were her words?
Yes.
Okay. So what has happened since you found out?
Well, I would say that for Jack and me, whatever, it doesn't matter if that name is in there, I suppose. But anyway, for my brother and me that are 100%, we've always been extraordinarily close. And it seemed to explain a lot of things. The closeness, it seemed to explain why when you look and review our family photos, whether it's in the massive slide collection that my dad had or all the snapshots that we've taken or found over the years, there are so many of just me and my brother, my 100% brother, and almost none of the first two alone as a set of, two individuals in a photo. There's almost none, and almost none of either of them with one of us in photos. It's just groups, big groups, the whole family, all four children, or the youngest two. And that I don't have an answer for, but it's true. But this adds a dimension to that I don't know whether it explains it, but it certainly puts a spotlight on that. And then we came to know even before my brother's DNA results came back, that we had living half siblings that had been raised with our biological father, his intact family. And we actually are very much in touch with them. We met them within a few months of the DNA coming out at all. They are wonderful people, and I have continued to pursue them one-on-one, and we're meeting again this year as a group. The relationships are so important to me because I began to see more of the things about myself that I didn't realize I needed to know.
You have been in touch with your new half siblings. That's wonderful. And how about their parents or their mom? And what about your biological father?
Well, aside from the fact that we're quite sure from my mother's point of view that he knew, there is nothing to indicate that he relayed this to his wife, and certainly never confessed this to his children. And they've made no bones about it. When his children first agreed to meet with us, they felt very much like they needed to make up for the fact that their father knew about other children he had and quote unquote neglected us. And so they wanted to right that by connecting with us, and then in short order, because the relationship existed. It's almost like last week when we met as DNA NPEs together in a room, there was a connection you can't explain just because of commonality. And it was the same thing, and certainly deeper with these siblings. And they said in a few hours of knowing each other that now they wanted to pursue us because they simply loved us and they wanted us in their lives, not to make up for their dad.
Is your biological father, is he deceased?
He died the same year as my birth certificate father. Tragically, I do admit to massive amounts of disappointment and anger that I was not ever allowed the opportunity to choose to confront or meet or expose myself to him in any way.
You're grieving it, but there's still so much frustration and so many things left unanswered. Yes. And what about his wife? Is she still in the picture? Is she still around?
She died before he did.
Okay.
And, again, there's no information that would lead us to believe that she knew.
And your two half siblings, the ones that you believe them to be full growing up.
Yeah.
Do they now know? How are they responding to this?
They're responding uniquely because my half sister I grew up with has been a close connection to me for many years now. And so she is wrestling with very much wanting to support me and realizing that this has affected her, and wanting to walk through this with me because it does affect her as well and her relationship to my mother. And at the same time, she is torn by not wanting to mess up the status quo with our mother.
This is Camille. This is identical. I mean, to me, with my sister and my mom. Okay, yes, keep going. Yes,
And
I
then
understand.
my half sibling that I grew up with, it's my brother. He struggles with some mental illness, and he's been distant in his own ways, and not reliable for many, many years. And so it's different. And he shares a similar path that he experienced in his first marriage. And so he and my mother actually have a lot in common and are very close, which is disturbing somehow.
Yes. When you have a pattern of, I don't know what the right word is, enabling a mother like this, the kids I've seen in my own family and with other NPEs, sometimes that pattern continues of just trying to continue to enable that mom with her, I guess, her personality. Thank you so much for sharing this so much. So I'm curious, what do you see in the future with you and your family?
It's an excellent question. I really latched on to Catherine's comment on our group this week, where she gave a beautiful statement about what we all deal with and how ridiculous it is for our mothers to say, aren't you over this? Why is it a problem? Can't we go on as we were? But it's the burning question for all of us. How do we go on? I did go to Texas in May and visit my mother for an hour in May, as I say. And I have to say that I took someone with me because I was afraid that I wouldn't be objective in my memory of what I experienced. And so I took a friend who's a therapist as well as being my friend for a long time. And she really likes my mother, so I thought maybe that would make her more objective as well. And when we left the house, she said, well, there's only one thing to tell you, and that is that it was void of emotion. So I brought emotion, but she meant the other way. There was no emotion. That I don't know if you can imagine, but when you haven't seen your child, be they 13 or 55, in a 2-year period, that you would not say to them, I'm glad you came. I'm so happy you're here. I touch them. And this is a mother who I had that kind of relationship with all my life, that close, connected relationship. And I'm quite certain that the blame is so deep on her side for my having exposed something she wanted unexposed, that she's willing to literally turn off her feelings and just be upset with me.
Oh, that is so sad. I'm sorry for you. Are you a mom?
Yes.
Can you imagine treating your daughter like that?
Absolutely not.
No, exactly. That's sad. I'm sorry.
Well, and my 2 children, just if it's relevant, my 2 children are very supportive. They're young adults. Well, they're nearly 30 and 30, and they have deep problems now having any kind of desire to connect with their grandmother, and yet were intensely devoted to her and felt very connected to her before this came out. So this has been very destructive, but I'm a firm believer in truth. And I only see the problem with this truth being what my mother's been willing to do with it. And that has made us all suffer more than we would have. And in fact, the beauty of this truth is out there in boatloads with this information it gives to me and my brother about who we are and what we are. And it answers so many questions. And then to have these additional siblings, which no one needs to feel bad about. It wouldn't mean that we're choosing them over our others. It's just what we are. And yet, because my mother is handling truth in the way she is and never prepared in all these years for having to deal with that truth, it's hurt everything.
Yeah, it really has. Well, I see that you're also active on our online support group, which thank goodness that DNA NPE site exists for us. And we have our local meet and greet, our local chapter.
Yes.
Is there anything else you'd like to share today?
Oh, no, in this context, but wow, it's just crazy. All the ramifications and all the effects and all of the feelings. It cannot be understated that this is literally upends your life, this information.
Yes, it really does. I hope that at least it's more unemotional really, but I hope that you were able to get now your medical history and maybe some of that information now that you're in contact with some of the members of your family.
Yes. Yep.
And we won't identify you out of respect for, thank you for sharing your story. But if people want to get in touch with you, Camille, they can contact me and perhaps we'd make that connection. And I can be contacted at the email address npestories@gmail.com. And thanks again to Camille for sharing today. These stories are here for us to identify with, so be a part of the storytelling. If you are an NPE that would like to share your story, email npestories@gmail.com. You do not have to give any identifying information, and I'd like to hear from you. Subscribe to this podcast to hear more. Come heal with us.